they're driven by their offense. This is an offensive outfit, and I'm not, here to give them any feel. We're not slighting the defense, but they're darn productive. 46 completions of 20 yards or more in the pass game, 319 yards per game. They're averaging, and their pass game is impressive from the standpoint of, the run game and the play actions match up, and then they screen you off of the play actions. I think that's impressive. They have RPOs, but they have the shot plays off the RPOs. And then I've been challenging our defensive staff. They better have a real pulse on where this quarterback's going with the ball and ball out breaks. We got to be Johnny on the spot because they're pretty good in the drop back pass game as well. I think the quarterback is obviously, a Big Ten transfer, but he's more than capable of having a big day if we let him get started. Jacardi Wright is a guy that we have knowledge on. Coach Kleinman coached him for a minute, but I think he's, right up there at 793 yards rushing. And he's also a big part of their screen game and pass game. He's impressive. And then I think they're tight end. So in all areas of the field, they deploy some athletes. I think the one thing to note about their defense is they're +8 in the turnover margin. They have 28 sacks, but just the size stands out to me. Even their backups they're big guys. Now, over time, can we get them to play high throughout the game and get into series and drives late, and then maybe we can take advantage of that. But they're going to challenge us to make sure our double teams are very tight and clean. We're hip to hip, we're foot to foot. Because their size can be concerning. I guess, with that, let's open up with questions.
With the bye, just the timing of this bye week, obviously late in the year, but you got a chance to rest up ahead of 2 ranked games to close out the regular season. Just kind of your thoughts on where the bye fell for you guys.
The only reason I feel like it fell in a good spot is because we're fairly healthy. Like I keep wanting to say, yeah, but so-and-so's not coming back. I care about those kids and their families, but the football team, we've got to move forward. And so the guys that can get healthy are getting closer to contributing in their roles or getting a piece of their role back. And with that being said, that's pretty good timing for the bye. I think that, we managed the late middle portion of the season pretty well, cutting back some things and doing some things there that allowed us to run at a really high rate last night. We went 20 periods and the guys were really flying around. It was really encouraging. You go on the road recruiting 2 days and then take a Saturday off. It's like you've been away from the football team for 3 months. And, man, we went out there. It was a blast to be out there with the guys, but the leadership was spot on, and I was really pleased with the energy and just the intent in which what we practiced. And you can see we're kind of getting healthier with the guys that are available.
Cole, is Nesky going to be ready to go this week?
No, Cole won't be ready to go this week. Like I said, earlier, I mean, if we all wanted to have fun with it and, put the South Dakota game out there, I'm not so sure how many guys would take the over of that or the under. He's just up and running right now. And I know today's a big day, and we will get some feedback as far as does he get to some functional football movements. And if he does that, then we're closer to interjecting him into some individual, and then that process can start. But I will say this, and I'm not trying to play games with you guys or anybody out there. I want this kid to be on the field as soon as he can. I think he wants to get on the field. There's an outside shot that he plays sooner than later, but it won't be this week.
Kind of stay on that path, that due diligence with when you want to get him out on the field. Is he's that good of a player, you want to get him out on the field. Is it hard to kind of take it slow, get him slowly back?
No, but I'm not a doctor. We have people in place here. We have an unbelievable medical staff, and correspondence with Trish, and then a lot of knowledge with Jim that he's been around this kid and he knows his gait, his running gait. He knows how he breaks and gets out of breaks. So we're going to do what's best for the human body, and for the kid and his family. I mean, Cole's got football ahead of him, and we will not rush this thing. And at some point, I think Cole will say, okay, it's all gas and no brakes. Here we go.
Coach, how important is it to have, to keep Missouri State in those 3rd and longs? Because like you said, there's size up front and avoiding those short 3rd and shorts.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question. I'd actually flip it just a little. I think it's really more about just eliminating or limiting explosive plays. And one of the things that we've talked about in those areas that we need to improve on still, we're vastly improved from week 3 or 4 on in tackling. But that number is still too high as far as average tackles per game. Those lead to 3.3 explosives a game. Down the stretch here, we cannot give up 3.3 explosive plays per game. And that's the emphasis on defense. I think if you can take away their explosives and make them play the long, hard 8, 9, 10 play drives. Typically, offenses will hurt themselves with penalties or potentially a turnover, and we just got to get gritty and tough in the gold zone. And then I think the offense plays a big role. We play team football here at NDSU. We pride ourselves on that. And so when the offense is out there, we need to be efficient. We need to stay on the football field. We need conversions and then find some explosive plays so we can create some points.
Regular season home game for Cam Miller. How have you and him been since you've taken over?
Yeah, it's you guys have been around me in the field when I was a younger coach, and you know how much it's been not a challenge, but it's not like I've been here with these guys for 4 and 5 years, so it's not the same feelings, but I'm getting really close to where I would get emotional in front of you guys talking about these kids. They have done nothing but everything we've asked of them. They've embraced anything that's new. They've run with it. His leadership is as good as I've seen. And obviously his completion percentage and his playmaking and his grit are up there. And so short order, we've developed a pretty strong relationship. And I think with a guy like Cam and I, or Gray or Kubitz, a lot of these seniors, I really do think Eli Mozart will. I really do think our relationship will continue to grow as we work through this in the next year or two. That's not always the case, right? Because you look back, well, I had 5 years with that guy. You don't work at it like we should. We all lose friendships, and I just think this group of seniors is writing a hell of a story right now, and we've got to continue to write it. But I see relationships growing in the future. I really do. And I will not ever turn my back on these guys, and I'll be there throughout. I'll give you a better example. Sam Young, I go into his high school with his dad, and he wants to talk ball, and he wants to talk about the upcoming game. And I said, I'm here for one reason. Right now, you currently have no recruits, right? I'm here to give you a hug and let you know that NDSU appreciates Sam Young. And that's a first-class young man. Hope he gets into coaching. So those moments, Jeff, are all important for all the guys.
Portal, no seniors left. That surprise you a little bit?
I don't know if any of us in this room, we're all part of this business, whether it's on the media side and writing stories and reporting, or if it's in support or administrative. We shouldn't be surprised by anything. It's how we move forward through things, and how we welcome opportunity, and how we take advantage of different challenges and move forward. With these guys as good as they are, I know they could have went other places. A lot of these guys. We focus too much on Cam and Gray. I think there's a lot of guys on this sheet of 23 guys that could have went other places and played. And there's classic examples out there. I wouldn't do it in the media here. There's opportunity out there, and these guys chose to stay, and there's going to be some really good things that happen because they did stay, and they'll always be Bison.
Tim, how did you address anybody of the team of the Mountain West report last week of the speculation, what's going on there?
Kids are, it's interesting. Kids are, number one, they're resilient. They still want to be coached, and they still want discipline. None of them brought it up. That's the God's honest truth, and I wouldn't have a lot to comment on. All the information I got is from what you guys write.
What has Jacob Clark done to separate himself from most quarterbacks you played this year?
I really think systematically they're sharp. These guys are on point protection-wise. They find different ways. They pull guards with their play actions. They swipe back tight ends with their play actions. In protection, they're a hard puzzle to solve because their tackles are so big. I think they've got good size. He's just been really explosive. That's how I would describe it. I couldn't even sit in here and comment. I've been so wrapped up in this explosive tape. That's all I've been watching in this completion tape, that I couldn't even tell you his completion percentage. I know he's thrown 6 interceptions, and we feel like maybe there's a tip ball opportunity. Maybe there's a ball on an overthrow or something. He's really been pinpoint when guys are open, and good quarterbacks find open receivers.
Missouri State's one of the older Valley teams that this is kind of their swan song in the FARGODOME. I think it's going to be their last kind of go around.
Yeah, if I was those guys right now, I'd be focused on winning a conference championship and really selling in recruiting and to the team. Hey, we're getting ready to take this step up. We got to position this program to compete with X, Y, and Z. So I'm not sure they're going to get too wrapped up in the FARGODOME, but I think the FARGODOME is going to be rocking. These 23 kids, potentially 26, deserve a huge hug from this community. Our young kids, our sophomores and juniors and freshmen better play 1 or 2% better, because these seniors are going to have to handle a little bit of emotion when this game's getting ready to kick off. And I think it's going to be exciting, and I'm more concerned about how we're going to defend the dome than I am how Missouri State's going to come up here in some deal. Honestly.
23, potentially 26. What's the other three?
Well, I mean, I just have to have conversations, final conversations. And I wouldn't mind if they wanted to still run out if they had decisions. But it's Raj and Cole, right? They've talked about wanting to come back. And then Hayden Johnston's continued to get better. I don't lose sleep anymore over who our backup center is, but he's got a kind of a decision in there to whether or not to come back. Most of these guys, a lot of these guys are graduated. Are they taking another minor? Are they going to take an extension of the degree? Do they want to look into their masters? I got to get with these guys today or tomorrow and talk with them if they want to be announced. If they want to be announced, we'll support that. Bryce Friday would be the 24th. He has had a bad foot injury, and I just want to get with him and make sure that we're all on the same page in case he wants to come back in some fashion.
Timeline you mentioned you want to have a conversation, but if they're not ready to make a decision, do you have hey, I need a decision to know what you're going to do for this?
Have a decision by tomorrow night. This cannot become a distraction. We need the names that are going to run out there. I'm going to shake their hand, hug them, and then we've got to find a way to play a football game and then celebrate senior night with their parents and their families, on Saturday evening, hopefully after a W, and then most importantly for me, is put together a little bit of a gathering, probably on Pro Day in the spring for this group.
Coach, we've talked a lot about this offense so far, but Missouri State's defense, there's a lot of length and height. What are you seeing from them in terms of how they're playing?
That was kind of like, they're solid on third down. They're giving up 41%, 42%. They've forced or recovered 7 fumbles, 6 interceptions, +8 in the turnover margin. I know that's a team stat, but they're +8. That's impressive. They give up some yards both ways. I mean, that's kind of the give and take when you want to be a really explosive offense and push the pace, be a look team, those kind of things. But what's got my attention the most is the size and the length. Mike Linebacker's 6'2". They've got some 6'4", 6'5" defensive ends that carry some weight with them, not just 240-pound guys. And so, like I said, we've got to get doubled up. We've got to play long in the pass pro. We've got to get our hands, on these guys and not give up our chest, where we can be vulnerable on counter punches in the pass pro.
Playing a shootout with these guys, what turns into that?
Well, it's interesting, right? Like, we're going to look back at this East Tennessee State game, and you have to win one ugly, right, to be in this position more times than not. And then you play in this kind of game and that kind of game. Yeah, I think our kids would respond well if it's a shootout, but I will say this. I think our defense is fresh and ready to go. And I think they're excited about the challenge.
When you were on the road recruiting, did the Mountain West stuff come up with kids you were talking to?
Not with kids. Well, we can't talk to kids this time of year. I went to 2 football games, saw a lot of really good high school coaches in Wisconsin in schools, and they poke at it and stuff like that. They're just interested where college football is going all the time. Like, how are you guys handling it? And I said, well, what are the changes at your level? And there's been change at every level except, upper Midwest. Youth programs are getting bigger and bigger, and they're having to manage, okay, what youth program do they go to? How do you get the kid to come to your high school? And so there's been a lot of change. They're usually pretty curious about change that's out there. And primarily, how would it impact recruiting?
Just in the last few questions, we've talked about managing COVID years, realignment, kind of what's it like being a head coach right now in this kind of era where things seem to be shifting in college football?
I think somewhere in there, you maybe have to ask Matt, but maybe 2 months into it, I said, Matt, this is just a series of firsts. Someone should write that book and that be the title, especially for a first-year head coach. The good news is, like, there's been change the last 3 or 4 years. It's been fine. I mean, you get the challenge, you knock the challenge down, you communicate with your bosses and the people that can support you and help you. You communicate it to the leadership on the team, you make a decision and you go. And so it's been exciting. I really enjoyed it. I wish the recruiting calendar, we could just settle in at some point. It'd be really nice so that I could be real consistent in front of parents. Instead of having to have a note sheet out, well, signing date is this year or whatever, and then, like, let's get locked in so we can do our jobs.
Describe your relationship with Jake Rock, a guy who's been here 6 years, now moving into the starting lineup, and how that's evolved from when you got here to where he's at now.
Yeah, it started by me taking Coach Ferentz to his high school, and we were looking at a different guy, and Coach Ferentz is even like, look at that. I said, yeah, they're around here, and developmental guy. Jake is our relationship has grown from the standpoint that I challenged Jake on being confident and leveraging that this is his 6th year. Like, if you're ever going to do it, it's got to be right now. There's no more time. And I think he's responded. You know, it's interesting. There's a couple of those guys that just continue to get better. I've seen improvement with Mason Miller, you know, being out there consistently. I think Dan Larson's done a really good job this year coaching. And it's interesting. Jake's parents will reach out through text and wish good luck. A few parents do that. And Jake's mom is awesome. She reached out the other day asking about his senior event and stuff like that. So all the guys, I mean, I could go down the list and share stories with all these guys. TK Marshall. I mean, I think that'll be a guy we'll look back on and say, well, man, wow, what a guy that filled his role, made big plays on special teams. You know, Logan Hofstad's not getting quite as many reps as he has in the past, but he goes out there every day and he's an unbelievable leader. You know, Dylan Hendricks, just to see him pushing through this, it's awesome. And I don't want to go down the whole list, but I really have had moments with all these guys, and I hope they appreciate what we've done as a staff. And I know that I appreciate their leadership. I mean, there's some really tough stories on here. Hunter Brosio, I mean, Dylan Hendricks. And these guys are ready to move on, but they stick it. They're in meetings. They're at practice. It's really remarkable how much it means to be a Bison. And once a Bison, always a Bison. And Bison pride is something that's real.
Get Oscar Benson back. How do you kind of manage? Because just the way Enoch's playing.
Anytime that there's a starter that goes down, he kind of just works his way in, right? Works his way in. Or he says, get out of my way. It's my job. So the competition is now on. And I'm talking about the ball's thrown over there. Do we have a ball out break and do we run? Okay, we get a report on who hits top end speeds. That's being looked at daily. Okay, you don't just get your job back when somebody else is playing really well. Now, it is senior night. I hope Oscar practices really, really well. And we have the ability to say, it's senior night, Oscar goes. That's what I would prefer. But that young man has to make his mind up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and how he prepares. Because nothing will be given to anybody around here. Duffy had to have surgery on his finger, so they're trying to figure out a splint and stuff like that. He looks doubtful, very doubtful for this week. And then I think it can become real manageable. I'll take one more. You guys got
on defense here? You getting back his injuries there?
Oh, you'd have to be specific for me.
You said the defense was getting fresher. Like,
Well,
will
Benson,
get better.
Eli Mozart's played a lot of football. You know, so I think about a guy like that. Shaka, you know, I thought last week in practice was, you know, running there on a half tank a little bit. And I said, LJ, protect him a little bit. We'll take care of him. You know, a lot of guys from that standpoint. You know, Luke Wartz, right? And my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. One of his grandparents had passed away this weekend. No, just a lot of those kind of moments. I'm thinking about guys getting refreshed. We were at this for 16 weeks straight. It was a long run. So I saw a freshness out of our defense, a little bit of a joy, a pure joy and passion for practice yesterday. It was really good. Thank you, guys.